Andrew Jessup did win his first PTQ online, and he'll be playing his first Pro Tour in just a couple of weeks from now.
Congratulations to him.
And it's a long time coming. I guess a long time coming is hard to say because he's really young. I think Andrew's 21 now.
Sounds right.
But he will excel at that level and all levels of Magic. He's very, very good. He's just starting things off with an Inspiring Vantage, while Tom with a Swamp Elf and Evolving Wilds. Here's a Blooming Marsh, and now that is a Grim Flare. Over to Jessup we will go. He'll draw a copy of Spire of Industry. He'll play another copy of Inspiring Vantage. And cut?
Uh-huh.
Gonna take care of the Grim Flare. Good card. That one might come up a little later. A Forest, a follow-up. It's a Walking Ballista for 1. And Tom will pass the turn back over to Jessup. Now, it's not that Tom isn't going to be able to play this deck. It's just something unfamiliar, seeing him play like a black-greenish mid-rangey strategy.
And especially, after the bannings took place, you would assume that he would have some new beatdown deck in the chamber ready to go.
Yeah. It's a little surprised to see this be the weapon of choice.
If you can't win a game, that's a compelling reason not to play a deck.
Can't manage to get a single W with the Always Watching deck. Tom thinking of playing a Forest here. Couple lands, he'll play the Forest. Here comes Walking Ballista for 1. Looks like no Fatal Push there from Andrew. And Tom will just pass the turn back. Not a lot going on here for Tom. Does have the ability to, of course, activate Walking Ballista and make it larger. But for now, he just passes with all the mana up. 2 cards in the graveyard in regards to Delirium. Jessup does have land at number 4. It'll be a basic Plains. Does he have Gideon number 1? Well, that answers that. The ally of Zendikar will resolve. It starts on 4, of course. Andrew is going to make a Knight ally. And will he activate Heart of Kiran here with a Gideon loyalty counter? That's the question.
A little sketchy to do it against 4 mana and a Walking Ballista. Looks like Jessup's just going to hang back for now.
Tom will grow the Walking Ballista on Jessup's end step. A Vessel of Nascency, the draw here for Tom. So the boss has been put to the test here right away. See if he can handle Gideon ally Zendikar.
Another land plus Fatal Push, so he has the option of playing land number 5, moving into combat, having the opportunity to make his Ballista 3/3, and hoping that Jessup turns on the Heart of Kiran.
Well, here's the attack. Jessup going to jump in front. Tom says, I'm going to activate this, put it up to 3 counters. And pass the turn back with Fatal Push at the ready. Jessup will draw. And Gideon's going to go up. And let's bring it back down. Turn on the heart. Here we go. Push. That will take care of the Heart of Kiran. Maybe. Doesn't have 5 mana for Avacyn. Okay, so he's going to push back here. Now Tom's going to read Gideon, and I've learned this the hard way from Jerry Thompson. Can't deal damage over to it because it says prevent all of the damage to it. So not a lot to accomplish. There's an Ether Hub, so an energy on the way. And does Jessup have a follow-up? Looks like the answer is no. Tom behind in a big way right now. This is kind of the thing we're used to with Gideon.
If you're trying to just get things done on the ground, like Tom mostly is, Gideon is a challenge. Usually these decks are punching through with Trample, some sort of evasion, Death Touch, something of the sort, but Tom's just kind of been playing some removal spells and some ground pounders, and it's a tough way to try to get it done against Gideon.
Yeah, no need to see Tom on the other side of it. He's the one casting the Gideons. He's the one giving the beatdowns.
Game 2, not game 1.
True.
Too much mana.
Coming from the board. Coming
Yeah.
from the board, for sure. For sure.
Coming in out of the sideboard along with 4 Needle Spires.
Yep. There's a Vessel. Oh, excuse me, there's a Traverse. I apologize. Delirium's online.
Artifact creature, instant land.
Yep. So what are we going to search up here, boss? Cletus isn't so bad. Certainly an option. Ideally, there would be a card he could search up that could just kill a Planeswalker, but got one of those.
No such creature.
He's also brought Grim Flare to the forefront, so he might be considering that option as well.
Yeah, Tom might determine here that he just needs a creature with trample. That's his best shot at being able to effectively manage Gideon.
There's Grim Flare, another Traverse. Ishkana. All right.
Good mixture of cards here.
Yeah. I mean, these are the premier threats that you're going to find in a green-black deck. So
Good mixture of offense to try to pressure the Gideon and defense to try to protect yourself over the next 2 turns.
Vessel Nascency, the follow-up play as well. And now we're going to head back over to Andrew. Of course, Andrew does have an energy. Now Gideon is going to go up yet again, it looks like. In for 5 more. No good blocks, of course, for Tom. So he'll take 5. He's going to fall down to 10. Jessup, you can see that he does have one of those checklist cards in hand. And that's an Archangel Avacyn. Ross will draw a card. Look like a copy of Liliana.
Grasp of Darkness in hand here, so about the best answer you're going to get for Archangel Avacyn.
Yep, there's Grasp. That'll take care of Archangel Avacyn. So Gideon's going to fall down to 1. I'm sure Tom would love to have a way to finish this off right now. Here's Vessel of Nascency. Top couple of cards, a Swamp, a Liliana, a Forest, and a Swamp are the cards that Tom gets to choose from here. Not a very exciting Vessel of Nascency. You can see Ishkana and New Liliana in hand right now for the boss. He'll go with the old Liliana, the Last Hope, and pass the turn back. Now Gideon's still on that battlefield. Hasn't quite killed it yet, as Jessup will draw.
Also, keep in mind, Ribbon's in the graveyard.
It's very real.
If you can get Tom down to 5 here,
which isn't that tough to do.
7th land, that finishes out the game. I mean, he's missing double black right now, but,
yeah, but for how long?
Definitely getting him in range because any artifact turns him on.
Well, that answers that.
Yep, he's good to go next turn.
Yep. Tom will draw. Picked up a Forest.
Cut to Ribbon seems so good in this matchup.
It's pretty good. I was thinking the exact same thing.
High quality 4 toughness threats in the Delirium deck, and the game drags on for a long time. They're trying to lock you out of combat. They don't really gain life. I mean, this is perfect, basically.
Unlicensed Disintegration even made it easier, too. So Andrew Jessup's going to win game number 1 here over Tom Ross. Mardu Vehicles very quickly up a game here over Black-Green Delirium off the back of everybody's favorite White Planeswalker, of course, Gideon, ally of Zendikar. But I'm with you. You know, game 1, I didn't know how good I expected it to be, but game 2 and game 3, when the games drag out, I expect it to be quite good. And even in that game, it just looms over the game.
Right. Even if you never touch it, your opponent is playing around it constantly by the way they block, the way they sequence things, and we have seen it actually finish off the game itself now several times already.
Sideboards is where we're going to go. That's where both players are right now, so that's where we are. 3 Scarab Feasts, 2 Dispossessed, 2 Flaying Tendrils, 2 Lay Bare the Heart, along with an Appetite for the Natural, another copy of Ishkana, a Manglehorn, Noxious Gearhulk, and Ob Nixilis Reignited, and a Yahenni's Expertise for Tom Ross.
I like the expertise, the extra Gearhulk, the Manglehorn, the Ishkana, the Appetite. A little bit of removal, a little bit of life gain, a little bit of anti-artifact measure.
For Andrew Jessup, 2 Nahiri the Harbinger, 2 Oath of Liliana, 2 Release the Gremlins, 2 Soren Grim Nemesis, 2 Transgress the Mind. Here come the 1-ofs for him as well, and Cut Ribbons, Anguish Unmaking, 1 Fumigate, a Magma Spray, and a card that's certainly coming in Painful Truths.
Yeah, I would imagine we're going to see the typical Marduk vehicles, more controlling matchup setup here with the Painful Truths, the Fumigate, extra copy of Cut Ribbons, the Anguish Unmaking, the 2 copies of Sorin. Maybe you go to some of the discard here as well, but a lot of cards here for Jessup to set up to play a longer game.
And those are the options there for each player. And while they do sideboard and shuffle up between the boss and Andrew Jessup, Tom will be on the play, and they'll figure out how they do want to sideboard. Probably going to have a bit more of a drawn-out game, but in the meantime, we're talking the StarCityGames.com and newsletter. It is your source for Magic the Gathering news, and there's lots of stuff going on in there, including your old pal, Ross Merriam.
My Los Angeles Clippers and his Utah Jazz about to play Game 7 tomorrow. Can't wait for that series to end because I've watched about as much of that as I can take. Anywho, Star City Games newsletter, all the best information about SCG and the SCG Tour, highlights for some of our best articles, upcoming SCG Tour dates and location. You can find StarCityGames.com invitational qualifiers and game nights near you, an exclusive cardboard crack comic, and best of all, signing up is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
Game number 2 between Tom Ross and Andrew Jessup about to be underway as they shuffle and sideboard. We learn more about the player on the right. You know so much about Tom Ross, but if you're new around these parts, you got to learn about the 21-year-old from New York. That is Andrew Jessup, brother of Danny Jessup. 6 open top 8s. Does not have that win yet, but trust me, it'll be here soon, Andrew. Brother Danny also plays Magic, but Andrew is self-proclaimed best player in the house. Played baseball as a competitive outlet until injury turned him to Magic, and he is a hip-hop fanatic and fairly decent drummer. He's one hell of a Magic player, too. He is, I don't know what the prime age is for Magic.
I felt like maybe for me, it depends what aspect of the game. I think in terms of mental acuity, investment, and the level of disregard for other human beings you need to be a peak competitive Magic player.
That's early 20s.
22, 28 years old for me.
That's early 20s, easily. Andrew's definitely working his way into his prime right now.
I'm surprised his profile failed to mention how bad I messed him up with Sudden Shock.
Oh, not again.
The SCG in Baltimore.
Not again.
Rolling up to the table, talking trash, and then just...
The only thing that we needed that for there was cameras. We don't have that one on camera, do we?
No.
That would be a best of SCG Live moment.
Just me and another Elves player.
Was this the same match where you had to fire blast down to 0 lands?
I fire blasted a Heritage Druid on turn 2 on the draw, yes.
Yep. And won.
Oh, easily. It wasn't even close, are you kidding me?
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, wasn't.
Right.
I mean,
it's moments like that that just keep bringing us back.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, I do love exchanging some blows with the new crowd.
Of course.
I do love it.
Of course.
Not that often. I think the only thing that's going to be able to get me out of the woodwork very often is the team tournaments.
We'll have plenty of them. Don't worry.
SCG, that's great. I got called up unexpectedly for the team Modern in San Antonio. That was a lot of fun.
You got to miss Cleveland, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because of the baby and everything.
I'll probably at least hang out at GP Denver. Might play in the main event. Don't know yet.
When's that?
Well, July or August, I think.
Oh, that's fun. Gives me a reason to get out to Denver. Forest is where Tom's going to start.
Yeah, your good friend having a child, not a good enough reason.
No, it's mostly the GP.
Had to go out for for a standard Grand Prix.
Good strong, by the way.
On a,
Shambling fence. Concealed courtyard.
good God.
A scrap heap scrounger. Well. Oh, hey. Hey, Fatal Push.
Ah, he's got the combo.
What's the combo?
He has the 4-mana exile, so you just, you know.
Yes.
He gets to return it. Well, maybe, because he has to cast Never first, which involves killing a creature, which then allows the Scrounger to come back,
So
unless Jessup taps out, but he probably won't, since the return will be face up in the graveyard.
even for you, this is a loose use of the word combo. Even for you. And nobody uses it looser than you do.
It's a combo. You get to combine a removal spell and the flashback of a 3-mana removal spell to answer a 2-mana creature. It's a combo.
Yes. It's a lot of things. The Jessup's going to sacrifice a clue, draw a card.
Or, if the game goes the right way for Tom, he can do it all for 7 mana in one shot.
Yeah. 7 mana to kill a creature and make a 2/2.
And get rid of a Scrounger.
No, I get it.
And you have a 2/2 matchup against a Thraben Inspector.
And that's game! And that's game!
That's not true. He's got Never.
That's game. It's Gideon.
It's probably.
Over.
I mean, it's bad.
It's over.
It is really bad.
It's over.
I'm not ready to call it just yet. You often criticize me for calling it too early.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do.
This is definitely looking bad, but I'm not ready to call it just yet.
Draw a card. Mind Rack Demon.
Well, there you go.
All right, there is Never. Gideon dead. Jessup will untap and draw. Now, can we get to the return portion to get rid of the Scrounger? That's the big question. We're in a sub game now.
Well, if Jessup, leaves up 2 mana this turn to do it, that means he's not developing his board all that much.
True.
That's a small victory. If he taps out, you take care of it, and you have a 2/2 against a board of a 1/2 and a 2/2. It's not so bad either.
Also, there's nothing for Andrew to return right now with the Scrounger, so we can just get it. Now, there's another Scrounger. There's an Inspiring Vantage, pass the turn back. So, all right. Well, something going on here. Grim Flare the draw here for Tom. To the Slaughter in hand. There's an instant Sorcery in the graveyard, so a little ways away from an old Delirium right now. We're going to try to hold the fort down with the Mind Rack Demon.
I think also this is an opportunity for Tom to try to get to Delirium because he has Nishkana in hand as well.
He's a Delirium now. Cycle.
It's the first cycle land that's been cycled so far.
That we've actually seen finally get
Canyon
cycled.
Slew.
Is there an unlicensed disintegration? Because that would be bad news. Here's a mountain. Oh, well,
that's worse.
It's equally as bad.
Sorin is worse.
Equally as bad. Okay.
Because next turn it will still be in play.
Well, Tom does have To the Slaughter.
Okay.
And he has Delirium.
Okay. So you get a Thraben Inspector and
baby steps.
You take 5 and go to 11 and
baby steps. He's actually a 10, so he'd take 5 and go to 5.
Yeah.
So.
And then just if Cut to Ribbon shows up at any point, that's game.
Among other cards.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody said it would be easy. And in fact, it's looking very hard. Here's To the Slaughter. There goes Inspector and Sorin. Tom just needs a 5th land, like, really bad. There's Vessel. Or there's Traverse. Yeah, he just needs a 5th land, I think, really, really bad. I want to see what land he wants to get. All right, he's going to get Hissing Quagmire. Free roll.
Yeah. At Delirium, that upgrades into also being able to find non-basic lands.
Draw. There's a land. Jessup is reaching for mana. He's going to turn on Shambling Vent, I think. Yes, he is. 3, 4, 5, 6. Put you to 4.
This is 7 going to 3.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
No, you're right. 7, sorry.
Unlicensed Disintegration left over among other cards.
Probably tough to win. Yeah, I'm going to kill that. And I'm going to kill you. That's going to do it. Andrew Jessup going to win this match over Tom Ross. 2-0. Mardu Vehicles reigns supreme again. Easily dispatching Black-Green Delirium. We might have a problem in our hands here, folks.
Which is?
Mardu Vehicles still looks to be pretty gosh darn good.
And so far, none of these decks I've been playing 4 copies that we've seen. It's been 1 or 2, maybe a third on the board, but Cut to Ribbons is not a small ad for this deck because it's in the market for removal spells, either to break serve in the controlling games or to leverage your aggression on the play. And then later on, you know, the deck is a lot about, sometimes I get you to 6, sometimes I can get you 8. How do I squeeze together the last couple points of damage? And License Disintegration, Creature Lands, Archangel Avacyn, like that's all kind of part of that experience as well.
Yep.
And Cut to Ribbons is excellent when you need that kind of card as well. So there is loud diminishing returns. You don't want a whole bunch of copies because the flashback gets worse and worse, and you want variety among your removal spells and all that sort of thing. But 1, 2 copies so far has looked very strong.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty good. A pretty good addition to this deck. I'm with you. Not going to play a ton of copies. 1 in the main deck here for Jessup, and I've got 1 in the sideboard of just that particular card. But in regards to what has changed here for Marty Vehicles, you know, they don't have to go through all of this work with having a sideboard against 4 colors to heal anymore. So before you would see cards like Authority of the Councils and other ways to go about beating 4 colors to healing. Main deck copies of Walking Ballista, which, you know, there are only 2 now, and people had moved away from Veteran Motors because it wasn't good enough in that matchup. Some things have obviously changed with the removal of that deck, and they can really laser focus in now on beating the Mirror, beating Black Green, and beating Gearhall decks.
And the addition of Canyon Slough plus Cut to Ribbons is an easy justification for playing a bit more mana than you otherwise would, and that allows you to more easily go to things like 2 copies of Sword in the sideboard. If you wanted to play a bunch of copies of Nicholas 5 or Liliana 5, whatever, you can more easily justify more mana now than you used to. It helps with your Walking Ballista, and it helps make these 5 and 6 mana cards in your sideboard a lot easier to cast on time without flooding out.
Well, one of the things that was always a little bit frustrating the previous standard season is this was, and is, in my opinion, a 25 land deck min. And sometimes, and I think Owen Turton's list that most people ended up playing was a 26 land deck, 34 plus 26. And then, of course, 15 sideboard cards, no lands in the sideboard. Now, and you make an excellent point, with Canyon Slough, you get to play these lands. You can comfortably play 26 lands, and no more of, you know, I wish I could play 25.5, for example, or try to skimp on 1 comfortably, because if you draw 1 or 2 of those cycled away, find some action card, and that's a big deal.
And even though it's a beatdown deck, you do feel this deck getting bottlenecked on mana at various points. You know, even cards like Thraben Inspector and Scrubber Scrounger, they're a lot more powerful when you're making your land drops along the way, because you see these spots all the time where, all right, you got a clue, but they're tight on mana, and it's their whole turn or close to it to cycle the clue, and so it's basically not part of the conversation. Or, you know, the Scrounger is very close to their whole turn, and so they're not advancing their board, and if you can get aggressive, then they can't really spend the mana getting the Scrounger back because it only works when it's on offense. The deck, even though it's aggressive, does want to go land to be able to make multiple plays in a turn and to leverage some of the more card advantage elements of the deck. So having these different justifications that let you get up to easily 25th and maybe justify 26, maybe a 27th mana, it's a subtle thing, but I do think that it improves this deck game 1 and a lot of the sideboard plans that revolve around more expensive cards.
You do work yourself into more expensive cards in the sideboard, because one of the things about this deck I realized when I was playing it last year, traveling to Grand Prix and other events to play in this, is look, you want to hit your first 4 land drops because you want to play Gideon 4 because it's the most powerful thing you can do, arguably, in the format. But also, when you work yourself into sideboard games, you want to play Nahiri on turn 4, or at least have 4 mana, enough lands to be able to facilitate that. You've got Archangel Avacyn. You have Release the Gremlins, which you certainly want to play 4-2 a lot of the time in the mirror match. You have Fumigate in your deck, and you've got plenty of mana sinks. You got Creature Lands and Shambling Vet and Needle Spires. You've got Clues to crack. You've got Walking Bliss to pump up. So, you could make an argument of, I just want to play 23, 24, 25, 26, seems like so many lands, but you've got plenty to do with your mana.
Yeah, I have seen this deck lose a lot more to missing land drops than flooding out, and it's not that close, but it is still a deck with a lot of 1 and 2 mana creatures, and so you only want to play so many lands. Being able to calibrate that just right, which I think the cycling lands help you do. Again, subtle, but I think it is an appreciable difference for the deck. And Cut to Ribbons fits right into wanting cheap stuff and more lands and things to do later on in the game.
We got our next match here for you. Let me take a little look here. I've got 3 Torrential Gearhawks. Ishkana. Some interesting things going on here. Looks like maybe a Sultai deck. Yeah, I got a Sultai strategy here. That Bobby Graves? Yeah, Robert Graves there. He likes to brew. Other side of things, I've got some black-green action here. So we're ready to move on down to that feature match area. So let's go down and watch our next match. Bobby Graves, a player who's been doing really well for Team Card Hoarder. He is on your right with Sultai Control. Andrew Miller is on your left with Green Black Durium. We're going to zoom in on this match and see exactly where we do stand between these two players. Noxious Gearhulk, Gonti for Graves. Along with plenty of lands, you've got 2 zombies and a Liliana that's starting to go to work here for Robert Graves. So it looks like his battlefield's looking pretty good. He'll make a zombie here in just a moment with Liliana. On the other side here for Andrew Miller and his Green-Black Delirium deck. He also has the Liliana. He's got a Noxious Gearhulk. He's got a Vessel. Turn over the top 2 cards with Liliana. Start loading up that graveyard for the Zombify effect. And as you can see, Robert Graves is currently up a game. He'll play a Blooming Marsh. Looks like he's going to find a way to attack here. You have to imagine he wants to get Liliana off the battlefield. Here comes Gearhulk, along with some zombies. So Liliana's going to bite the dust. And you can see that Noxious Gearhulk on Andrew Miller's side is really all that he has going on. See if Graves has any follow-up play here in the second main phase. 5 mana, Ishkana, 3 spiders, and this game seems a little one-sided to me.
I'm guessing that Graves' deck goes longer a bit better than Miller's.
I'm inclined to agree. And with Graves at 24,
yep.
Miller only with 2 cards in hand. One of them is Walking Ballista. You see the Vessel of Nascency on the battlefield that he can crack, but he'd need to have something real good off of that. I don't even know what that something could be. Walking Ballista, generally a good card, not great on this battlefield.
Yeah, I think Miller just needs to get that Liliana off the table right now, but this is a small reprieve.
I would consider that step 1 of many to getting back into this game, as Graves is going to untap all those lands and creatures. Three mana. It's murder. That's going to do it. Robert Graves going to win this match here over Andrew Miller. Sultai Control has brought Robert Graves up to 5-0, taking down Green-Black Delirium. And I got to say, Green-Black not looking very impressive so far.
I think it is a deck that is often inaccurately described as being very, very linear. We've seen a couple different builds of it, but it is a deck that's, I think, very sensitive to where the metagame's at. I spoke to this earlier, where you can be very much on the, I'm playing with Winding Constrictor and everything that generates counters, not that many removal spells, and I'm just trying to attack with the best power to mana creatures in the format.
Okay.
And you can do the Delirium thing, which is I'm playing with, a lot of removal spells, ways to mill myself over, and Ishkana, Noxious Gearhulk to win the game. You have decks in the middle that are just kind of not synergy driven, but a lot of removal spells. Like the Joe Bernal deck from the Invitational a little while ago. You can do it in a bunch of different ways. All these builds are very much about how much removal are other people playing, how many sweepers. Are the games about dominating the battlefield? Are they about having better card advantage? Is it about having selection? And if you pick wrong, then the deck's not very good.
Yep.
And right now, I think we've seen a lot of people try to do the individual quality cards and removal spells and the Delirium thing.